Thank you. What a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Hamilton. So here we are in this crucial time where it is the time for Canadians to decide whether they want to choose for a fourth time a party that has left us in a very weak and vulnerable position, where the cost of housing has doubled, where we're having a hard time to afford and put food on the table, where the crime is ramping up? Or do we want to choose change and a leader who's actually going to put Canada first? This journey for my husband and I began about 3 years ago when my husband announced that he was going to run for leader. Ever since, he's been traveling from coast to coast to coast so that he can speak with the people, to hear them out, to truly really be there with all of us and understand what's going on. Because what we need is leadership and a government for the people, by the people. Leadership is born from the true love for our country, from patriotism. Leadership is not born from fancy degrees, fancy titles. Leadership is not born from the boardroom of the elites. Leadership is born from those who actually put Canada first, like my husband does. And while this journey began 3 years ago, for my husband, it has been a long life commitment. And that is something that the opposition looks down on. But I say, you should not look down on our democracy. My husband has been here at home most of his adult life, fighting for all of us by our side, putting our country first. While others spent the last decade not even living in this country, actually promoting investments and investing his own personal money against Canada's interests. Pierre has been here all along, fighting with us by our side, and they should not look down on that. You know, I love all of my husband's policies, and I agree with all of them. But I truly believe that it is also important to understand the why we do this. Who is really the person behind all of this? Because that truly matters. And who is the family behind all of this? My husband, he was born from a teenage mother, and he was given out for adoption to 2 school teachers. His family worked really hard to make ends meet. Pierre has worked really hard for everything in this life, and nothing was given to him. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela. And my family immigrated here in 1995. We lived in the east end of Montreal. My father, he had to work really hard. First job was collecting fruits and vegetables. Eventually, he had 3 minimum wage jobs so that he can make ends meet. It was really a struggle. By the time that I was 17, I had moved out of my house and I was financially independent. By the time that I was 19, I moved to Ottawa. I took a student loan, put myself through university. I worked full-time and studied full-time. And by the time that I was 25, working in the Senate, I had a job, and I was making about $50,000 a year. And at 25, a single woman in 2012, I was able to afford a little house in the suburb area of Ottawa. That's the Canadian promise. That if you work hard, you can make it. And that's what my husband is fighting for. So in the Poilievre household, nothing was given to us. We work really hard. and we've been fighting all by your side. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we need for leadership, a man who's for the people. So, it is my absolute pleasure to share with all of you my husband and the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
Home, bring it home, bring it home.
Give a shout out to Maria.
Thank you. Get home, bring it home, bring it home. Home, bring it home. Good to see you. Who's ready to axe the tax? Who's ready to make some steel? Who's ready to bring home the great Canadian promise? Wow, what an incredible introduction. Let me start by giving a grand thank you to the amazing Nathan Bergstrand. Nathan Bergstrand with the United Association, business manager. Give him a round of applause. A great union leader. A great union leader who's been fighting for the steam fitters, for the plumbers, for the welders, the people who literally build this country with their hands, and they have a great champion in Nathan, and I can't wait to champion those workers with you right across Canada. Incredible. Incredible, the thousands of workers who've been trained, represented, grieved for, and who've had their wages improved, their safety protected because of this incredible union that has fought for its people. You know, it's the union history of Hamilton. Great unions fighting for the rights of their workers on the floors at Stelco and Dofasco. Over 100 years of steel history. We have any steel workers in the house. And they had a very basic idea. You know, they call it a collective agreement, which is a longer way of saying a deal. We had a deal in this country, didn't we, Nathan? You get up in the morning and work hard. You do the right thing. You follow the law. You get a nice house in a beautiful neighborhood, on a safe street, under a proud flag. That was the deal in this country. That was what made this country so special. It's what attracted people from around the world. That was the Canadian promise. But after a decade, a lost liberal decade of costs and crime rising, of our economy falling under the American thumb, this liberal government does not deserve a fourth term. We need to put Canada first for a change with a new conservative government. Thank you very much. What a crowd. What an incredible crowd here in the Hammer. Look at this crowd. You know, the liberal establishment has said that their party deserves a fourth term in power. They replaced the much hated Justin Trudeau with his economic advisor and hand-picked successor and said you should just forget about the last 10 years where they doubled housing costs, doubled the national debt, doubled the lineups at our food banks, doubled violent crime, and they said, elect them for a fourth time. The liberal establishment has anointed our next leader, who's not even been elected, but is also already acting like he runs the world. This guy, and I don't want to run the world. I want to put you back in charge of your life. I'm not running to take power. I'm running to give it back. Thank you. That's why I'm running for office. I don't want to run your life. I want to run a decent government that lives within its means, leaves more in your pocket, lets you get ahead, does a few basic things right instead of doing a lot of things wrong, that gives people back control of their decisions. But most of all, the reason that I am in politics is to restore the Canadian promise, the promise that was made to my wife when she arrived here, that was made to me when I was born to humble means, that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work pays off, that we can be proud Canadians, that we can fly our flag, that our people can trade with each other, that our soldiers can protect us, that our borders are secure, that we are one country, united for the Canadian people. Après 10 ans des libéraux, ils ont brisé notre système d'immigration, ajouté 100 000 fonctionnaires, doublé notre dette nationale et le coût de logement aussi. C'est la pire inflation depuis 40 ans et ils ont affaibli notre économie face aux Américains. Il nous faut un changement pour reprendre le contrôle et relancer notre économie. On va couper la bureaucratie, les taxes et les impôts, exploiter nos ressources naturelles, repérer l'immigration, mettre les criminels en prison. Et finalement, nous allons renforcer notre économie pour pouvoir faire face à Donald Trump dans une position de force, c'est-à-dire mettre le Canada d'abord pour faire changement. Now, we know that Donald Trump would like to have Mark Carney, a weak liberal, in charge of our country. Because he knows, first of all, that Mark Carney will sell out our country, as he's done so often. He's a guy with, up until recently, had 3 passports, moved his corporate headquarters out of Canada to New York, only days after Trump threatened tariffs, leaving behind Canadian workers. And it was revealed today that Mark Carney actually went to China and took a $250 million loan from a state-backed Chinese bank. And he still has investments in the same company for which that loan was made, which means that the Prime Minister of our country is now beholden to a hostile foreign regime that has executed 4 Canadian citizens, taken 2 others hostage, done incursions into our Arctic waters, and has interfered in our democracy. It is time for Mark Carney to stop covering up his foreign conflicts of interest, come clean about what you own, and stop selling out our country to foreign interests. This is the globalist ideology, which seeks to shut down our resource sector and move jobs abroad, bring in big, heavy taxes on our citizens, while importing goods from countries that pollute far more. This has destroyed the working class in our country. Meanwhile, they print money, driving up the cost of housing and food, forcing our people to go to food banks, and are blocking an entire generation from ever owning a home. That is what has been the result of the last 10 years. My friends, the last 10 years have been about the Liberals. I'm here to say that the next 10 years are going to be about you. Absolutely. Hey, good to see you guys. Thank you. We are unleashing a beautiful Canada First plan. They will put Canadians back in charge of their country and put you back in charge of your wallet. It starts by bringing back our jobs and our industry so that we can once again be a self-reliant nation that stands on its own 2 feet. Here. We know that what has driven the money away, capital goes where capital grows. And extremely high taxes in Canada mean that more and more industry is forced to leave for places where they can get a better business environment and lower taxes. Higher taxes on energy, investment, work, and home building mean less gets done in this country. But we're going to reverse that. I've announced that we will pass a big, beautiful, bring-it-home tax cut on investment, work, home building, and energy that will incentivize our economy to be strong again. Income tax. Income tax, the worst tax. Income tax is... I was talking about that incredible meme that I saw online the other day. There was a kid in a park with his dad, and the kid was crying, and he said to Dad, "What is an income tax for?" And the dad said to the boy, "It's just like your high school report card, except the reverse. The harder you work, the more you get punished." Income tax is the fine you pay for the crime of working hard. The more you work, the more you pay. And that's why people say they put in an extra hour, earn that extra bonus, get that extra shift, and they look at their pay stub at the end of the month, and it's one tax after another. It's not worth it to work more. That's why I've announced that a Canada First Conservative government will cut income taxes by 15% to make work pay. Thank you. Lower income tax. Anybody over there want an income tax cut? Anybody out there think that you should get more of your paycheck and that the government should get less? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. An income tax cut will mean our workers and families have the ability to spend more in local businesses, which will create yet more jobs for workers who will pay even lower taxes. These tax cuts will apply to every single person who pays income tax. It is a tax cut for retired seniors who are on a fixed income. Are we any of those here today? Lots of them. It is an income tax cut for the waitress who is struggling to feed her children but works hard every day to get that extra tip. She'll be keeping more of the tip, and more of that will go into nutritious food for her wonderful kids. It's an income tax cut for the steel worker at Stelco, DeFasco. And it doesn't stop there. Not only do we want you to bring home more of your paycheck, you need a home to bring it to, right? So we've got to build the homes. Right now, the biggest part of the cost of any new home in Ontario is taxes. Nationwide, it's the same story. 30% goes to taxes. Another 20 to 30% goes to bureaucratic delays. The time it takes to get a permit, the rezoning, the lawyers, the accountants, the lobbyists, the bureaucracy, the side fees. In fact, more money from a new home today goes to bureaucrats in office buildings than goes to the carpenters, electricians, and plumbers who actually build the homes. And to add insult to injury, those carpenters can't even afford to live and buy the homes that they built. That is fundamentally unjust. Nathan, would you say there are many of your members that can't actually buy a home? The young guys, do we have any 35-year-olds living in mom's basement here? You don't have to be ashamed. It's everybody. It's normal now. It's now bizarre when you meet someone under the age of 20 that's been able to buy a house. It really is. It's hard to believe this, but 10 years ago, the average home in Canada cost $450,000. Today, it's almost double that. And worse, in big cities, it's well over $1 million. Vancouver and Toronto are the two most expensive housing markets in North America. Worse than New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, many other places where incomes are higher, population is greater, and there's less land to build on. We have the most expensive real estate in the G7. We have the fewest homes per capita in that group, even though we have by far the most land to build on. So tell me this, we have 10 times as much land to build on per person as the next closest country, and somehow we have the fewest homes. Well, what's the cause of that? Government bureaucracy, government gatekeepers. Now, let's be very clear about this. The same Liberals who doubled housing costs over the next 10 years will only make it worse if they are re-elected to a fourth mandate. What we need is a Canada First government who will bring real change. And this is my plan. First of all, we will take the GST, the federal sales tax, off all new homes of under $1.3 million. Build the homes. Build the homes. Build the home. Build the home. Build the home. Right now to municipalities. The Liberals have encouraged those local governments to build up their gatekeeping bureaucracies that stop building from happening and give us the second slowest building permits anywhere in the OECD. I will require municipalities, as a condition of getting their federal funds, to speed up permits, free up land, and cut development taxes to build 15% more homes every single year. And then we will sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build beautiful homes. And you know something, it just warms my heart to think of the beautiful U-Haul truck rolling up with a wonderful family in it to move into their wonderful new home in the former headquarters of the CBC. So we're going to get rid of the taxes on new homes. And we're going to get rid of the worst tax of all. A tax on your energy, a tax on your food, a tax on your job. I'm talking now, of course, of axing the Liberal carbon tax. So, first of all, the father of the carbon tax, of course, is Mark Carney. Mark Carney he was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor while Trudeau raised the tax. And Trudeau passed a law to quadruple the tax to 61 cents a liter. Now, they did have one disagreement, just one. Mark Carney thought that Trudeau's carbon tax was not high enough. He said the tax should go even higher, and that in order to make it less unpopular, it should be turned into a shadow carbon tax. That is to say, carefully hidden so that nobody can tell when they're paying it. You see, if you just embed it, it's a very sneaky move. And so after Liberals having this tax in place for 7 years, they decided that 30 days before the election, they would hide it at the gas pumps so that Canadians would forget about it. And of course, the Liberal media tells us we're not allowed to talk about the carbon tax anymore because they want people to be tricked into voting Liberal again, after which Mr. Carney, along with his radical Liberal MPs, will raise the tax higher than ever. Now, if you doubt that for a second, keep in mind that numerous Liberal cabinet ministers have literally said the planet will burn if you don't have a carbon tax. So you want us to believe that they've suddenly changed their mind 30 days before election? Give me a break. If you believe that, I've got swampland to sell you in Florida. expecting a liberal to stop raising your taxes is like expecting a vampire to become a vegetarian. And then there's the industrial carbon tax. Now this part, I have to give Mr. Carney credit. He's been honest. He wants an industrial carbon tax. And he was asked, who would pay it? And he said, well, don't worry. Canadians don't have to pay it because it will go on things like steel. And nobody uses steel anymore, he said. Has he been to Hamilton lately? I think he was over, was it in the Sioux? He went to a steel plant. They weren't welcoming him very warmly over there. They could only find Liberal MPs to stand behind them. Imagine how little you have to know about the economy to think that we can have a modern economic civilization without steel. Steel is literally the bones of a modern economy. You tax steel, you tax everything. And that is one of the reasons. That is one of the reasons why conservatives, a new conservative government, will put Canada first by axing the carbon tax for everything, for everybody, for real, for good, for a change. And then we'll move on to the next part of our Bring It Home plan, and that is to bring home our resource jobs for a change. Our minerals, our oil, our gas, our stuff has to come out of the ground. It has to be refined and improved here, and it has to be sold to other markets than the United States so that we get the benefits in this country and we stop subsidizing the Americans and the Chinese and the others. I've said that I'll kick that off by moving within 6 months to get permits on the Ring of Fire to unleash tens of billions of dollars of resource production right here in Ontario. Your guys are going to be working there. Your workers are going to be working on that project directly, indirectly. I think we have some LiUNA people here. LiUNA! We're going to have LiUNA workers on those job sites. They build roads. You know what? Stephen Guilbeault, Mark Carney's minister, doesn't want to build any roads. Well, we've got news to him. When I'm Prime Minister, we're going to rapidly grant more permits to build beautiful highways, and those highways will lead to mines, and our workers will be putting paychecks in their pocket. We're going to approve pipelines made with Canadian steel. We'll grant rapid permits for liquefied natural gas plants. We've got incredible natural gas advantages. First of all, we've got 1,300 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Second of all, it takes 11 days to ship from British Columbia to Asia. It takes 20 days from the US Gulf Coast. Furthermore, it takes 25% less energy to liquefy a gas in Canada because it's so cold. The cold weather removes a lot of the electricity that you need to cool the gas into a liquid form to get it on the ship. Furthermore, we have clean hydroelectricity in BC, Newfoundland, Quebec that could power that liquefaction. All we need, we ask the people who build these things, what help do you need to make it happen? And they say very simply, get out of the way. We're going to repeal C-69, the No New Pipelines law, and replace it with a new law that will allow our builders to get permits within no more than 1 year and ideally within 6 months. We will pass something called shovel-ready zones. Here's the idea. We sit down and we look at the places where good industrial activity should go. Pipelines, mine, power stations, data centers. And then we draw a circle around it. We grant permits before we even receive an application. We publish the specifications and the standards that the builders have to meet to protect the security of the population and our local nature. And then we get out of the way and let entrepreneurs lock arms with workers and get the shovels in the ground. That's how we're going to get these projects going. We have incredible opportunities, my friends. In the States, the big tech companies are all building these data centers. Meta, Microsoft, the others they're actually buying nuclear plants of their own because these data centers are electricity consuming beasts. That's what they need. We need them here. You know, this is to power artificial intelligence. You know, we have a lot of artificial intelligence in the government. What? It's a different type. But when you do a ChatGPT inquiry, it takes literally 9 times as much electricity as a Google inquiry, just for scale. We have an electricity surplus. The Americans have an electricity deficit. And that's why we need to bring that production and those data centers here from the United States. But in order to do it, we need fast permits for the LNG power plants, the nuclear power plants. We've got to build the nukes. And for the data centers themselves, this will unleash massive $200,000 and $300,000 a year jobs for people who wear boots every day. It's going to boots, not suits. These are going to be incredible jobs for our people. And that's what our plan is, boots and not suits. We are going to, I'm telling the young people across the country, the best jobs of the future are going to be in the trades. Get yourself an apprenticeship. Do we have any tradesmen in the room? Right on. You know, when I go into businesses like this across the country, I did 600 events last year. And the businesses are no longer run by lawyers and MBAs. They're actually run by tradespeople who started working with their hands, and then they realized their problem-solving ability would help them run large businesses, and they're actually doing the best. But we need more of them. Right now, all the money is going to university and white-collar education. I got nothing against university. It's great. But we need to make sure that a fair share goes to the trades. And that's why my government, absolutely. We're going to bring back the $4,000 apprenticeship grant to help our young people with the cost of an apprenticeship. And we'll partner. We will partner with our union friends in great organizations like the United Association, like LIUNA, like the Boilermakers and others to build big, beautiful training halls that will train 350,000 young tradespeople for the future. Boots, not suits. Boots, not suits. Boots, not suits. But we want them to bring home paychecks to safe neighborhoods. Safety was something we used to take for granted in Canada. In fact, there are many communities across this country where people used to go out without even locking their door. And now, often they're afraid to go out at all. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder are increasingly rampant on our once safe and tranquil streets, as we see increasing violent crime taking over in places where we were safe before. What is the cause of all this crime? Well, the good news is we don't actually have a lot of criminals in Canada. The bad news is they're very productive, right? A very productive group of a small number of criminals do all the crime. In Vancouver, for example, they had to arrest the same 40 offenders 6,000 times. That means that the average offender was arrested once every 2 days. I mean, that actually takes work. You basically have to be doing crime all day, every day if you're going to get caught every second day. But if you took those 40 offenders off the street, you would have 6,000 fewer crimes. So right now we have Bill C-75, the Liberal Catch and Release Bail Law. That's right. Catch and release bail requires judges, and I quote, to release offenders at the earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions. That's right in the law. And so the judges do what is written down, and they release the criminals often before the police have even filled out the paperwork on the latest crime. Then they've got C5, the house arrest law, which allows convicts to do their penalties in their living room. Larry Brock, the prosecutor, is here. Stand up, Larry. Stand up. Larry, the prosecutor. There it is, that's the crime. Look at that. He was literally, you were literally a Crown attorney, weren't you? Yeah, so he's put, for 20 years, you put a lot of bad guys behind bars, eh? It would be a frustrating thing to try to do right now, eh? You'd be getting a lot of return customers. Yeah. I think someone said you almost got him, so I think he snuck out just under the wire, that guy over there. I'm sure he's a harmless guy, though. But in truth, it's funny that the joke is not really a joke. The police tell me that many of the criminals don't even try to avoid getting caught anymore, because it's actually more hassle to avoid getting caught than it is just to go in and go out. Anyway, house arrest means that if you're a chronic car thief, you can serve your sentence in the comfort of your living room, watching Netflix, or playing Grand Theft Auto, or walk out the front door and do the real thing all over again. And then you've got C-83, the despicable law that has allowed Paul Bernardo to move out of a maximum security penitentiary. My friends, if you re-elect the Liberals to a fourth consecutive term of soft on crime, you will have more chaos and violence in your streets. If you're ready to put Canada first for a change, Canadian safety first for a change, then you need a new Conservative government. We will. Our plan will repeal C-75, the catch and release law, and C-5, and we will bring in a new rule. Repeat offenders will be ineligible for bail, probation, parole, or house arrest. Jail, not bail. And then we will repeal C-83, and we will send Paul Bernardo back to a maximum security penitentiary forever. And then there's the drugs, the opioids. We know what happened. Greedy and corrupt pharmaceutical companies distributed these drugs in our hospitals and pharmacies. They told doctors to tell people they were not lethal or addictive. They were just a harmless way to make aches and pains go away. Often working class communities where people had job-related injuries would go to their doctor and say, "What can you do about my hip or my back?" And they would get overprescribed. They found that these drugs brought them comfort from the stresses of life, but then they couldn't get off them. And the drugs spread far and wide across North America, and in Canada, they have killed 50,000 of our friends, neighbors, brothers, and sisters. More than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. The government's solution has been to provide what they call safe supply, a taxpayer-funded stream. a taxpayer-funded stream of opioids that then get resold to children as the addicts and the drug dealers use the proceeds to buy more dangerous fentanyl. Fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than heroin. 40 milligrams of fentanyl is enough to kill 20 people. Just to put it into perspective. My friends, it is like mass murder. It is like mass murder when you distribute these drugs. So our government, listen, there's no way Mark Carney is going to tackle this problem. He said it's not even a crisis. He's not going to stand up to China, which is producing the ingredients that go into these drugs, because of course he has massive financial interests in China. He's got a loan for his company from China. He will never act against China to defend our people. Well, I can tell you, we will put Canada first. We will stop the drugs with a real plan to bring our loved ones home drug-free. So here's the plan, my friends. First of all, we will declare that selling over 40 milligrams of fentanyl is equivalent to being a mass murderer. There will be life sentences for mass traffickers of fentanyl.
Absolutely.
Second, we will stop giving out tax-funded opioids, and instead, we will invest the money in treatment and rehabilitation to bring our loved ones home drug-free. Beautiful places like the Oak Centre in Winnipeg, where they bring young people off the streets, give them counseling, group therapy, detox, physical exercise, yoga, sweat lodges for First Nations. They lift people up, cleanse their bodies of their poisons, repair their souls, help them get into a home and a job, and start their lives all over again. My message to anybody who's struggling with addiction out there, hang on, have hope, help is on the way.
Thank you.
And we will secure our borders. Right now, only 1% of shipping containers gets inspected because we don't have enough frontline resources. Meanwhile, the government is spending billions of dollars confiscating lawful property from licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested hunters and sport shooters. Which of course makes absolutely no sense, because if you've got a license, it means by definition you're probably not a criminal, right? Criminals don't go out and get a license to buy a firearm. Maybe. It's common sense. Over 80% of the guns used in crime in Toronto, according to the police, are actually illegal guns smuggled in through the Canada-US border. So here's my common sense plan. We're going to have high-powered scanners that can look right into the shipping containers and intercept the drugs, guns, and stolen vehicles. Here's how it would work. You imagine the inspectors are there. They look at the manifest. It says that there's modular parts from the Faro facility in here. Faro, there's Faro. So it says that there are these beautiful modular parts inside there. But you look at the scanner and it turns out it's a beamer. Well, then you pull the beamer out, you call the guy on the VIN, and you say, were you planning to send your beamer to Turkey today? And he will probably say, no, I was going to drive it to work. I work at Faro. I was going to go in, but I had to call them and tell them my car was missing this morning. And so they said, well, it's okay, we've got it over here at the port, we'll give you your car back. And then you find out who booked the shipping container, and you say, you're under arrest, you have the right to remain silent. Pretty simple. We're going to have watchtowers and 2,000 more CBSA officers who will have the ability to guard our entire border to intercept drugs, guns, stolen cars, illegal migration. And we will pay for all of this by cutting back office bureaucracy, overpriced consultants, and canceling the confiscation of the property of licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested hunters and sport shooters. I want to protect Canadians from criminals. The Liberals want to protect turkeys from hunters. I think it's pretty clear who's got their priorities right and wrong in this business. We're going to do the right thing for our people and the right thing for our country. Because it's clear, after the lost Liberal decade of rising crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder, electing the Liberals to a fourth term will only make it worse. Instead, we need to put Canada first for a change by locking up criminals, securing our border, and protecting law-abiding people. But putting Canada first means also rebuilding the great Canadian Armed Forces. Commander General Maisonneuve. General, come on over. Come on over. Here we have him. Great, the General Maisonneuve. Give him a big round of applause for the anti-woke general. Merci beaucoup. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much. You served. You had even more distinguished career than he did, didn't you? Yes, and that's right. And he's still working for you, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you're making sure that he behaves himself most of the time. All right. We got to be realistic. This is a great general who served our country for many years. Let's give it up for all the veterans. All the veterans. Give it up for all the veterans. Thank you. We're going to buy 4 new massive icebreakers that will take back our northern seas. We will procure more submarines, Poseidon aircraft, fighter jets, and we will also invest in the first post-Cold War Arctic base for Canada, CFB Iqaluit. We'll also expand the cadets so that our young people can learn more about service, about practical skills. They can be mentored by members of our armed forces and by the great Canadian Rangers, whose first patrol will also be doubled in size. This will allow us to take back control of our Arctic, exert our sovereignty. We're going to take control of our economic and military destiny and show all the nations of the world that we are able to stand on our own 2 feet and protect our nation for ourselves. And our military will be guided by a warrior culture, not a woke culture. Thank you. I love you too. I love all of you. You inspire me. You inspire me. with the great Canadian people who inspire me to bring back the country that we knew and still love. And that also means putting Canada first when it comes to immigration. Boy. We're the best immigration system in the world. An immigration system that welcomed the brightest people to come and fill jobs that Canadians couldn't do. All of the waves after waves of those who came and ended up on shop floors in places like Hamilton with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. That worked because we brought people in the right numbers. We screened to make sure that they were the kinds of people we wanted. They followed the law, they worked hard, and we were able to ensure that they had homes and health care and jobs because the numbers that arrived were consistent with what we could absorb. But after the lost Liberal decade, that there's been a massive change as the globalist agenda that the Liberals call the Century Initiative took over. Today we found out that the same Liberal immigration minister who implemented the Century Initiative to grow our population by over 1 million people every year is now running again for Mark Carney. If you think it is the same Liberal MPs, the same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal strategies, the same Liberal agenda, the same last-minute Liberal promises, which will mean you'll get the same Liberal results, including on immigration. We've seen massive fraud in the international student program. The temporary foreign worker program has been abused by corporate elites that use it in order to drive down Canadian wages by bringing in excess numbers of people from extremely poor countries. Even international human rights bodies have pointed out the abuses that this system has brought under the Liberals. And the Liberals will continue doing it. They continue to stand by the Century Initiative. Just the other day, Mark Wiseman, who, along with the Globe and Mail, which actually sponsors the Century Initiative, Mark Wiseman is now advisor to Mark Carney, and Carney refuses to disavow it. My friends, our common sense Canada First approach rejects the Century Initiative. We will get back to common sense immigration, where we bring in only the number of people that we can absorb into our housing, our health care, and our jobs. We will end the fraud in the international student program, and we will make sure that corporations only use temporary foreign workers in the very rare cases when there are not Canadians available. Canadian jobs should go to Canadians first. You will reject all of these schemes, and I will ban all my ministers from any involvement in the World Economic Forum. We will end cancel culture and celebrate rather than eliminating our beautiful history. Terry Fox, our veterans, the famous five, we'll all be back in the passport. We're going to stand up for our history and be proud of our country. We're going to end this post-national ideology that the Liberals have imposed on our country. We are going to stand up for who we are and what we believe, and we're going to put our own people first. We will be a nation that brings home its jobs, that trades with each other, that looks after its people, that secures its border, that rebuilds its military, and honors its legendary past. We will go forward with confidence, knowing that we have the strength to stand on our own 2 feet, stand up to the Americans, and be a proud and united nation across the land. We will bring home hope for our people. If you're out there today and you are that single mother who's going to bed hungry, wondering how you're going to feed your kids in the morning, I'm here to say that hope is on the way. If you are that young couple desperate to buy a home and start a family before the biological clock runs out in your mid-30s, I'm here to say that change is on the way. If you're an elderly couple choosing between eating and heating and wondering what happened to the beautiful country that you knew and still love, I am here to say that both hope and change are on the way. We will go. We will not be a nation of tax collectors and toll masters, of bureaucrats and busybodies, of gatekeepers and grandees, rulers and rule makers. No, we are a country of explorers and entrepreneurs, of artists and adventurers, of workers and warriors, of patriots and pioneers, a proud nation, a united nation bound together by the Canadian promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a great life on a safe street in a beautiful house protected by brave troops under a proud flag. Canada first, let's bring it home.
Thank you.